Vidya, that was so overwhelming.
Truly, I was like, for the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about 20 years, and I'm
It
like,
doesn't feel. I have to say, as a fan, as an observer, it doesn't feel like it's been 20 years.
I know, and yet it does. It's such a dichotomy. I don't know how else to put it, but it's a lovely feeling. I feel like, oh my God, I've lasted 20 long years. And then I feel, but I have such a long road ahead of me. But yeah, when I see something like this, I do get overwhelmed with gratitude because I've said this to you many times before, Rajiv. I didn't know how far for me every job was like, okay. Even when I was doing ad films, even when I was doing Hum Panch, before that, I always felt like, okay, I'm going to give it my all because I don't know whether there's going to be a road ahead. So that's why these 20 years mean so much. But sorry, I just jumped into a hi, Rajiv. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Bollywood Hangama, for doing this. This video was very special. Thank you.
But when you look at that clip from Parinita, do you feel like the person, the girl there is very different from the girl today? I have to say, I don't. I remember chatting with you during Parinita, and I feel like maybe the reason why it doesn't feel like 20 years is because it doesn't feel like you've changed dramatically. You are, I think what you stood for, you still do. I think you wear your success quite lightly. I think you wear the crown very sort of gently. It's not something you carry around like a burden. Do you feel like there's been a dramatic change in yourself?
I think the answer is pretty much the same as when I said, it feels like 20 years, and yet it doesn't, because I think in some ways I've changed so much. I'm so much more comfortable with who I am. And what's not changed is that hunger. That hunger for the next role, the next film that I'm going to do. There's always excitement, and so that's there. I'm always looking forward to what next, or giving all that I have to whatever I'm doing. But um, there are ways in which I've changed a lot. I find it much easier to say no today than I did 20 years ago. I was so scared. So I remember, as a matter of fact, I have to share this incident. There was a film that was offered to me opposite Akshay Khanna, and for some reason, I didn't connect with the script. But I didn't pick up the phone and tell him that. I told my manager, please convey it to the director. And then I met Akshay Khanna on the sets of Salaam Ishq, and he fired me. He was like, why didn't you tell me you didn't want to do the film? And I was like, I went up to John and said, can you please save me? Because, I was so new. I didn't want any confrontation. I didn't want to hurt anyone or make anyone feel bad, or just feel like, I was refusing a film with them. But of course, he was only pulling my leg, I later realized. But yeah, so I think.
Do you find that you've now learned how to say no in a sincere way where I mean, it's going to no one wants to hear no, but you're able to explain with some sort of clarity and sincerity, and people take it better?
On the face of it, they definitely take it better. But because Rajiv, they're putting in so much time, effort, passion into it, it's never easy to hear a no. And being married to a producer today, I know that better than I did before. But I do think that, I have found a way to be honest. And I'd like to believe I'm not a rude person, so I say it like it is. But of course, I'm aware of the fact that you put in so much, and I value the fact that you brought it to me, but it's not working for me. Sometimes it's a great script, Rajiv, but off late that's been happening a lot, because I remember Shobha Day had said this to me at the beginning of my career. She said, "Oh, you're Capri, and wow, so you're going to regress age." I said, what do you mean? She said, Capris grow younger in their minds. They're freer, they're happier as they grow older. And I think she was absolutely right. I do feel like now I just want to have fun. So I feel like I want to do comedies. I just want to do entertainers. That's the zone I'm in. So a lot of times these days I find myself saying, fabulous script, but maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, this is something I would have done in a heartbeat, but not now. And some people can't understand it, rightly so, right?
But that's interesting, and I want to ask, like, does does one's choices come a lot from where one is in their head and their life and their world? So you're aware, and you're saying that you can see that they're good, but just not for me at this time, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so clear about it, right? Because sometimes I do, and then I do get tempted sometimes, but because the script is so good, or the material is so good, but I feel like, no, I don't want to do anything intense and dark. I don't want to kill anyone. I don't want to see blood and gore, and I don't want to. I just want to have fun. So I think there is absolute clarity in my mind about that, and I do think that all the choices I've made over the years have been an extension of my state of mind, current state of mind. So when I'm going to be cheeky and say this, but when I did the dirty picture, someone asked me, "So what state of mind were you in?" I said, "I just met Siddharth, so go figure." So I really think that that's what it is.
I watched an interview of yours. I think it was just after Bhool Bhulaiyaa 3 came out last year. And you'd said that in 2.5 years, it was the best script you'd read.
Yeah.
You hadn't read anything that made you want to jump up and say, let's go to set. And I don't know if you've been on set since Bhool Bhulaiyaa. You haven't.
I haven't yet. I'm hopefully getting on set sometime later
So I
this
suppose
year.
the question I want to ask is, if one of the best actresses in the country is saying, I'm reading one good script every 2 years or 2.5 years. Is there a crisis of creativity? Is there a creative bankruptcy? I mean, what is the malaise in the business? I mean,
I think, also when I say this is the best script I've read in 2.5 years, it's also, like
again,
I said,
in your
it's-
own context.
yeah, because I was looking to do an entertainer. I was looking to have fun. And everything that was being offered to me was not exactly that. So when this came, I felt like, and it's an Anees Bazmi film, Anees Bazmi film always make me, films always make me feel like full paisa vasool. So, and even when I heard the narration and I read the script, I felt like, oh wow, this is just fun.
And you were such a hoot.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed myself, and just 2 days ago, someone told me, it looks like you had a lot of fun on that film, and I said, I did. As a matter of fact, I've never spent so much time on any set chatting with the director like I have with Anees Bazmi, because what would happen is, I'm quite the stickler for time, so I would land up on time and be ready on time, and then I would just go and sit with him on set while lighting was happening. I can't sit in my van, so, and he would regale me with stories right from the time he was an assistant to Raj Kapoor, and various other things like that. So I really had a great time. But I
Not to
think there
mention
is
the friendship you've struck with your hero in that film, because y'all, I mean, he's clearly having FOMO not being on set with you. He's on a flight and he's finding lookalikes.
really, I was telling him, मैं पीछा नहीं छोड़ रही कि तुम मेरा पीछा नहीं छोड़ रहे, नहीं पता. But he was a great spot because I was only pulling his leg. I think I felt like a senior. And I was ragging him, but he was a great sport, so we had fun. And that film was great. But I think in terms of, there is, I think, a need for reinvention in terms of the way we are writing our scripts. I think we've lost the essence of what is truly a Hindi film. Of course, there are experts who have opinions on why a lot of our films haven't been working. Like, Javed Saab had a take, which I heard recently, which was very interesting, about how actually the film experience has become such an expensive one that the content is actually catering to that audience. And because we're saying we don't have mass entertainers, but where are the masses being able to go into these theaters? So, various people like that. It's very interesting to hear various points of view. But I personally feel that we've really, in trying to be, and I have a huge problem with this, in trying to be universal, I think we've lost the essence of the Hindi movie. I don't see why we should be doing away with lip sync. Why? What is the problem with 100 dancers doing the same step behind you? I'd love to do films like that. Because finally, that is a language, that is the idiom of the Hindi film. And I don't think, because there are films that appeal universally, but they are very true to their context and their milieu. I think here that's not happening. So we keep saying that South films are being true to what they're not doing anything differently to bring in more people. But I think what we are doing is we think that we also want that Oscar nomination, but we also want the business of I don't know. We want the business of Pushpa. So you can't have it all. I think you have to just be able to tell her, this is my personal point of view. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a bit of an identity crisis that seems to be happening because you're absolutely right. It seems like one is trying to. It's also kind of throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks, right? Which is
Yeah, I think it's also, got to do with maybe a lot of these filmmakers are probably they've studied abroad or watched too much international content. They're not assisting directors on, I may sound like, too much of a senior when I say this, but I don't think they know what our kind of storytelling is. They're not familiar with it. So it is alienating. It's not engrossing me. It doesn't feel like it's about me anymore, which is why I'm saying I'm enjoying the masala films because it's not pretentious. There is absolutely no pretense saying, and a lot of directors these days don't even use close-ups. I find that shocking, because the only way to connect with your character is through a close-up. Give me close-ups. Let me look into the eyes. That's how the nation fell in love with Shah Rukh Khan, for God's sake. Imagine if he was only doing this, he wouldn't be as loved,
Since this is a masterclass, we're also hoping to get some sort of interesting, interesting conversations about acting. I want to ask you: has your process of approaching characters changed over the years? In that, do you like to go fully prepared, or do you enjoy sort of figuring it out as you go? Is it a mixture of that?
I'm not a trained actor, so when I started out with Pradeep Sarkar, he made me prep a lot. I knew the script like the back of my hand. We did an audio board for the film. So all the actors, they were of course not all. We didn't have Saif and Sanju doing the audio board, but we had other, theater actors voicing their parts, and we played out the entire film to see how it sounds. And then you feel that this is sounding a bit bookish, or this is not sounding right, or this is not sounding colloquial and spoken. So those kind of changes we made with the audio board. He used to storyboard everything. So he made me watch lots of films to understand various things. Even I remember he made me watch films to see how music was used to elevate certain moments. So I had a true mentor in him. So I think because I started out like that, I always end up prepping for a role. Of course, acquiring skills that you need to for any particular role, if it's a diction or a dialect or maybe, I don't know, swimming or something like that. But do a little and sit with the director, understand his or her vision for the character and the world she inhabits. But I adapt my style to every director. Anies Bhai doesn't do any prep. He doesn't believe in it. He trusts his actors to the extent, like Priyadarshan, as a matter of fact, on Bhool Bhulaiya 1. You land up on set and you're just, you're giving the scene, you read it once together, and then you know exactly what to do. If there is any addition, subtraction, they'll tell you. So I feel that that's the only way I can keep challenging myself as an actor, by not being stuck. Because there are times when you begin to take yourself so seriously also because people are not pushing you to that like they did before. So what happens is you begin to see a character in a certain way, in the sense that sometimes who you are as a person stands in the way of who you should be as a character. Yeah. Because you've seen it a certain way. Because, for example, it's a director who doesn't prep too much. And then I feel that it happened to me a few years ago. Like, I kept feeling like, but this director is not getting me. And then in retrospect, I realized that it wasn't so much that the director was not getting me, but I, for some reason on that film, had become a bit rigid, a bit inflexible, because I felt like, there wasn't much discussion before it. And I felt like, but this is how I've seen it now. So this is how I'm going to do it. I think it's also maybe my state of mind at that time. But which is, I think when you realize these things, you realize that, no one is infallible and no one is as committed as I am to what I'm doing. These things can happen to anyone at any given point of time.
You said something interesting. I want to take off from there. When you're playing a character for an extended period of time, and some films take longer than the others, does it sort of creep into or seep into Vidya, the person? I'll tell you why I asked. I read an interview of Al Pacino, and he said when he was doing Scarface, Tony Montana was the character, and violence was something that was something that he enjoyed and was such a big part of who he was. He started to see dogs on the street, and he wanted to kick those dogs, even though he loves dogs. But that violence was such a part of the character he was playing then that it started to become a part of who he was. This may be a bit extreme, but in your case, have you ever found that that the character is sort of merging into the person? Are you able to sort of disconnect when you go home?
Now I am. I think, which is where again the 20 years show, right? Yeah. Previously, I didn't know how to draw a line. I also thought that was great acting when you get lost in the process and you can't draw a line between yourself and the character. I thought, oh, that's what great actors do and all that. But I also read a quote by Dustin Hoffman where he told a younger actor, I don't remember who that was, that I think the actor was prepping for a role where he was exhausted and he kept running and exhausting himself. And he said, why don't you try acting? So, over time, you also learn these things. It's also important that, to maintain your sanity, to keep healthy physically. I think that line is very important. I remember during the Dirty Picture, I had fallen horribly sick because it took a lot out of me. Yeah. So Nasir Saab had sent me a one-line message at one point when, he heard that I wasn't well, saying, very important to keep Vidya and Silk separate. And that's all he said. And I was like, at that time, I'm not sure I fully understood it, but I do think that over time I've been able to do that. And it's not like I play Monjulika and then, I come back home and I just do that on Siddharth, because then poor thing, he sees that side of me anyway. No, why? It's true. Of course, Daniel Day-Lewis, I remember he said that, you have to ask my wife how she feels, because there's a different man who walks in during every film. Yeah, I'm sure it does influence some part of you that you can't take away, right? Luckily, I've not done any really violent part so far to know that. But I do think that, and if I'm playing sexy parts, then I don't think my husband's complaining.
Do you build your characters? I mean, when you're starting to work on a character, do you find that it's you need to get into the heads first, or is it important to get the sort of outward, you go from the out in? Again, I ask because I read a quote where Meryl Streep said she was playing, it was a film that she did with Robert De Niro, and he tried something like 37 jackets because it was so important for him to get the right one. The sort of exterior of it and the sort of appearance was so important for him to be able to get into that character. For you, does a physical transformation, or does hair and makeup and styling play a big, is it a big crutch? Yeah.
Huge. Because I think when you look the part, it helps you feel the part. I say this a lot of times, that when I'm promoting a film, for example, I'm still very much in the zone. But you ask me, for example, to replay something from the film a year later, I may not be able to do it. Because I have that experience is very fresh in my mind. And makeup and hair and costume contribute greatly. They're great tools that we have. Diction, or a manner of speaking or walking or a twitch or whatever it is, that all those things help greatly. So I think you do focus on getting that right. And once that, but I don't know what comes first because I'm also simultaneously sitting with the director. But I do think that physicality is a huge part of the character because, and I don't think I focus on feeling it until I'm on set because I'm just focused on, uh, the physicality and the mental makeup, so that on set there is a higher probability of me feeling the moment than there is if I wasn't prepped for that.
Interesting. Vidya, how much of your craft is honed? I mean, are you one that believes that acting is a craft that has to be continually honed, just as cycling maybe, or playing the piano maybe? Or are you someone, and it doesn't have to be do you believe that you bring your life experiences into your performances and your understanding of a character as well?
I think life is a best teacher for an actor. So I think the reason I do one film, max two films a year, is because I want to live. There's a life I have outside of being the actor. So that I'm replenished for when I come back to do what I do. But I can't just be going from set to set. That sort of practice is, I don't think.
Did you ever?
I think in the initial first 2 years. But since 2008, pretty much, that's not been the case.
Is there a part of your own that you look at? I've spoken to lots of directors and they talk about that one, I don't know what the word is, that one child that they feel didn't get its due, and given the chance, they do it again and get it right this time. Is there a part that you wish you could do again, or a part that you feel you didn't do enough justice to? And I'm deliberately asking you this because I feel like yours are the films that all of us look at and feel like they're just perfect performances, they're perfect films. So is there one imperfect baby among those? And it can be, it could be something which we all love and find perfect, but you feel like there could be things you could do differently?
There's just one film that I didn't get enough time to prep on, which was Begum Jaan.
Yes.
So I feel that my sur was a little off. The director didn't feel that, which is why he okayed the takes that he did. But I feel like maybe if I had a little more time, it would have come from here. I think I did it from here. And to me, that is a problem. There are people who think that that's a good performance, and I'm grateful for that. But to me, I feel there's something as a whole. I feel I didn't really dig deep. I didn't have the time, and then that's when I also decided. That was a year when I did Teen, Kahani 2, and Begum Jaan back to back.
Wow, so it was an intense.
Yeah, so, and I think Kahani 2 was also a very intense film.
Yeah.
So I think, and then by the time I came back, we hardly had 3 to 4 weeks in between. So because of the weather, we had to start shooting. So we preponed shoot and all those things happened. And I think the next time that happens, I'm going to say, listen, I'm not ready.
I've been told not to hog this and to open it out for questions. I'm going to, in 1 minute, I just want to ask you one last question before they can. Of all the characters, I'll make a quick one. Of all the characters, which is the one that you feel might be someone you could befriend very easily? A character that you quite like and say, I could be friends with her. One of the ones that you played.
I think Sulu.
Yeah, she's
The
lovely.
most personable, you know. And she's like all those women I've seen growing up around me. Has that fire in the belly and is fearless and is passionate and is at the same time a little mad. Adorable. I think Sulu is probably someone I'd love to get to know.
Lovely. I think all of us would. She's quite charming. Yes.
Thank you.
Guys, anyone has questions for Vidya, raise your hand and we'll pass a mic around.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Sahir here.
Hi, Sahir.
My question is that you've been my favorite actor.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, after Sridevi, if there's any actor that I've really liked.
Thank you. That's a huge compliment for me.
Yeah. And if you would look at your career, that's been what was that one trait that made you stand out? Because every other actor is reading scripts, they're giving it to the directors, they try to understand his vision. Everybody has pretty much the same things. But now that you look back at it, what was those 2-3 standout traits where you developed your skills that you could do a Ghanchakkar also, you could do a Kahani also, a Sulu also? Like, what made you so like qualified as a thespian itself?
I think one is the constant hunger. I don't know. I don't know about anyone else. I can only speak for myself. But I think I'm quite fearless in that sense. I don't calculate much. If I like it, I do it. And I think I'm maybe my ordinariness has been a strength. You know? Yeah, I think I'm very accepting of that, and I never tried to fight it.
What were the skills that you had acquired initially in your career that like helped you do so many films? Whether it's dialect, some
I
hacks.
think it's actually just realizing that life is the best teacher for an actor, and therefore you have to keep yourself open to everything as an actor. You can't say that this is not of interest to me, you know. Of course, you'll have interests, but I just love people watching, for example. I love getting to know people. I'll watch any sort of film. I'm quite agnostic like that, you know. I like to read all kinds of stuff.
There should be like a standout trait. Like you stood out like out of all your contemporaries.
I really don't know what to say beyond that. I think it's probably and the discipline and realizing early on. I think this is very very crucial actually for an actor to realize that there are no rules and no one knows better than you. So you do what feels correct instinctively. But if you do something because someone's telling you that, you know, no, this is going to work out for you, I don't believe in calculated strategic decisions. I think that's a whole lot of bull crap. I don't know if I've answered your question, but thank you, Sahir.
I'm told we have time for
Thank
just
you,
one
thank
more
you.
question. I just want to
Yeah.
jump in one
Yeah.
thing and say, Vidya, you said ordinariness, and I want to say that is absolutely not the right word to describe any quality that you have. I think what you have is this beautiful every woman quality, which is
Oh.
you can be anyone, the woman next door, and also Smita, you know, silk Smita. But ordinariness is not a word I would use to describe
Thank you.
as well. The lady, yeah.
Hello, ma'am. My
Hi.
name is Sanjana.
Hi, Sanjana.
As you completed your 20 years in Bollywood, so congratulations.
Thank you.
So you have done so many iconic characters, just like Manjulika. And so, which is your favorite character, and you think that ये character ने मुझे मेरी पहचान दी है? Your one favorite character, any character.
I think Parinita undoubtedly because it established me. It was my debut film, but what a dream debut because it also established me as an actor. But जो dirty picture और कहानी ने मुझे दिया है ना, उसका मैं आज तक खा रही हूँ और शायद जिंदगी भर खाती रहूंगी. So yeah,
One more
it's
compliment. You're looking like so beautiful,
Thank
so
you.
elegant, just looking like
like
a
a wow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I've been told that that's all the time we have. Vidya, what an incredible career. I didn't even realize it's been 20 years. It's gone by in such a flash. And like you said, you know, आप उनकी खाती हैं पर उन्होंने आपसे भी बहुत लिया है. Those films would not have been what they are if you hadn't sort of pumped blood and life into those films. Thank you for an incredible career. Thank you for
Thank you.
entertaining us like you have for 20 years. And here's to the next 20.
Yes,
Thank
to
you. I think I
that.
speak for everyone in this room when I say bravo, well done. Can't wait to see what the next 20 are going to be like.
Thank you,
Vidya.
Rajiv. I
Thank you so
always
much.
enjoy chatting
My
with you.
pleasure
Thank
entirely.
you.
Thank you.
And thank you all so much.